Welcome back to the IBJJF Podcast. My guest today is 2023 brown belt absolute world champion and new black belt, Rayron Gracie. Rayron, how you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for the invite. It's great talking to you.
Of course. So we have to talk about your Worlds performance, but before we get into that, I actually want to start with some of your performances and some of the events you competed in leading up to the Worlds. So at the 2022 Worlds, 2023 Pans, and 2023 Europeans, you got bronze at super heavyweight, silver in the open class. You had some incredible matches, great moments in those events, and you were so close to getting the gold. What were some of your takeaways from those big tournaments that you competed in?
It was very mentally demanding. It was a test of my perseverance for sure, because every single one of the major tournaments I got that result. I got second in the open class and third in my weight class.
Yeah.
So it was always on the almost getting there. So it was I knew that I was I could definitely win. It was just a matter of fixing those little tiny details, and that's what it counts when you're at the highest level. So it was now that I won the Worlds, I know that I can look back and see that those defeats were very important.
What were some of those tiny details that you felt like were missing from those performances that you fixed for this Worlds?
It's very hard to point like a specific thing. I would say that defense-wise, being very, I don't want to say conservative, but being more careful in terms of defending myself, right, and not letting my opponents advance. So that's I know in a general thing that I worked on, and it's a process, right? There's a lot of things in general you have to evolve in all aspects of your jiu-jitsu, mentally, physically, and then physically, all the specific positions that you find yourself on. So I was able to work on those in between those major tournaments and learn from them. So, then everything worked out.
What's really interesting to me is that you've consistently gotten better results in the open class. And the open class for lower belts is really tough because you do it at the end of the day. So you're probably 7 or 8 fights deep into the event. So tell me about the perseverance and the focus that you need to succeed in an open class and why that's challenging.
Yeah. Now looking back, I'm very proud that I actually have these kind of results, because a lot of times people fight the weight class and then they're so upset, if they lose. They're so down that they go into the open, and then it's very hard for them to do that transition of mindset and now it's the time to shine. So every single tournament, and that's what happened also in the Worlds, I was thinking to myself, okay, I failed, or not failed, but I didn't get the result that I hoped for in the weight class. And now this is an amazing opportunity for me to, it's a test. That now I got to show myself, look, now it's your time to change the key, turn the key, right? And change your mindset completely. So every single tournament, I lost on the third. And then when it was time for the open class, I signed up right away. I can't even consider not doing it. And then, I have to change that make that switch in my mind. So I did that every time.
When people watch you compete, I think they can see Roger's influence in your game. You have great pressure, great close guard. You have an awesome cross choke from the mount, and the defense that you talked about too. I know Roger has great defense. So can you talk about your relationship with Roger and when you first started training with him?
Yeah, Roger and I were very close. I always go to London every now and then, and he was one of the best of the family, right? His legacy is incredible. This will never be forgotten. So, and the techniques that he teaches, they have been tested, right? There's no, does this work or not? There's no argument on that, right? It's proven. So it would be rude of me to not learn from him, not learn from one of the greatest champions in the family. So that's what I do. I'm very, very close to him. I admire him as a person, as a fighter, especially off the mats. He's a very, very, I have only good things to talk about him.
So I believe the last Gracie to win the brown belt open class was Roger, and that was all the way back in 2002. So 21 years ago. That's pretty crazy. Talk about that and what that means to you to kind of continue that legacy that Roger left off with.
Yeah, I didn't know actually that I found out after I won, right? About this, this fact, right?
Yeah.
And I was very happy. It's a it's an amazing feeling to carry on the legacy and add to everything that they did, right? Because the family doesn't have to prove anything like anymore, right? We could retire for many years to come. But I mean, it's for me to step on the mats and continue there, add on to what they did, and now write this this next chapter of my family. It's priceless. Yeah.
So speaking of this next chapter, you recently got promoted to black belt. You were promoted by Kyra. I believe you mentioned in your post that you were the first Gracie promoted by a female Gracie family member, which is really cool. So can you talk
Yeah.
about the black belt promotion and just what it meant to you to be promoted by Kyra?
Yes. I mean, Kyra, a lot of people don't know this, but Kyra was the first connection that I had to jiu-jitsu, because my grandfather, I mean, my uncles already lived in the U.S. Half moved on to California, San Francisco, when I was very young. Hans was already living in New York since I was pretty much, I mean, before I was born. And my dad passed when I was 6. So I was only raised by women, very tough women. And Kyra was one of them, right? Kyra was like my big sister, like an aunt. She's my cousin. She tells everybody she's my aunt, but she's my cousin. We joke. We say that cousins don't respect each other, so that's why she calls me nephew. But anyway, she was the first like connection that I had to jiu-jitsu. And I remember seeing her, coming back from tournaments with her medals, and I used to play with the medals, right? And she was actually the first one, right, of daily training, that hard regimen of training. And to come back to Brazil and get the belt from her, it's priceless. Like, we got very emotional. Like a movie passes through my mind when I got it. Even thinking about it now, it's an amazing like cycle, coming back home, returning home.
So you got your black belt from Kyra. You trained with Roger. I know a lot of the other Gracie family members have had a big impact on you, and they all have their own amazing personalities and have contributed unique things to jiu-jitsu. So can you talk about some of the influences you've had from other family members and just kind of what they've bestowed upon you that's helped you so far in your career?
Yeah, it's a huge family. It's very hard to name.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sure it's a
very
long
hard to
list.
name. Yeah, it's a long list, and I try to absorb the best from each one of them, because they are so amazing. I mean, there's such an amazing, not jiu-jitsu, but personalities and
Yeah.
and characters of good virtues that I really admire. And it's like when people talk about, like, oh, for kids, for example, like superheroes, right? Wow, you want to be like Spider-Man, right? You want to be like Captain America, or these kind of things. For me, it's like, oh, you want to be like Roger, you want to be like Gregor, Hanzo, right? Like all this, my dad, and it's like my family's full of superheroes. So
Yeah.
for me to pick an example, it's a tough one. I mean, it's everybody. I mean, every single person that I had contact with, right? Of course, I lived in New York for 7 years. Then I went to London. So Gregor taught me many years, right? Kyra when I was little, Roger recently, and just Igor, Halls, all of them just adding, right? So I try to get the best from each. Yeah.
So I know you didn't have a personal relationship with Carlos and Helio, but they're people that influenced you tremendously as well. You even mentioned when you got promoted that your goal as a black belt was to carry on their legacies and to kind of contribute and give back the same things that they contributed to the community back in the day. So can you talk about Carlos and Helio, what you feel like they contributed to jiu-jitsu and how you feel like you want to carry on that legacy?
Carlos and Ali did I mean, there's no words to describe the job and the feat that they were both able to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
And people sometimes have this like, not dilemma, this discussion. Oh, who what came first, or if there was no Carlos, there wouldn't be an Ali, and if there's no Ali, there wouldn't be Carlos, right? So they're both, their strength came combined, their connection as a family, as two brothers, right? And so that's the most important of all, this brotherhood that they had and this respect that they had among themselves. And what they thought people usually would just perceive as jiu-jitsu, the moves, right? Armbar, or the sweep, use the leverage. But it's way beyond that. It's how jiu-jitsu for them wasn't a tool for just physical. Physical was the last thing that they were considering. It was more to transform people's lives, right? So when I got the black belt, I said my goal as a black belt is to honor through my actions, both of them, Carlos and Helio. As Helio, to fight fiercely for this legacy, right? And make the next generations exceptional fighters. And as Carlos, to reignite the philosophy of our family, which has guided us for nearly 100 years. It's going to be 100 years now on 2025. And to reignite this philosophy, which guided us for nearly 100 years, and to make those fighters exceptional humans, right? So I'm sure that that's my goal. That's what I aim, to not only be able to be a great teacher on the mats, but as well as a great role model for the next generation to come and stand for what's right. So I always carry their image on my mind, and whenever I'm in a situation of doubt and considering asking myself what I should do, I ask what Carlos and Helio would do in this situation, and it always comes up right.
Yeah. So what do you feel like are some of the key components of Carlos's philosophy of what he wanted to pass on to his students?
Yeah, the honesty, the respect, all the good virtues that we admire in someone, right? When you see someone and say, man, this person, I really admire them, right? And nowadays we have some good examples, but it's very hard for us to, like, now I didn't, live with Carlos personally, right? He passed when I was very young, Helio too. So having them as an example of people that they really admire, right? It's very hard to find that nowadays. Like, oh, this guy is, oh my God, this guy is super brave. This guy is super respectful, right? We have few examples of that, right? Now it's some very weird times we're on, right? It's very hard to find that person that you really admire. With social media, there's a lot of illusion. People can portray it as as they wish. Yeah. So, I mean, all the good virtues. That's what he was teaching. And as I said, jiu-jitsu was the last thing on his mind in terms of techniques, right? The moves that he taught was the cherry on top. It wasn't, the philosophy was the real thing behind it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just recognizing what Carlos and Helio contributed, and just like you said, they built up the family, they built up all these fighters who all had their own personalities, who all added their own unique contributions to it. So it's cool to see people really honor them and really give them the respect that they're due.
Yeah, for sure, it is.
So you also teach jiu-jitsu. You don't only compete; you're a teacher as well. So can you talk about teaching jiu-jitsu and how you want to incorporate that into your career?
Yes, I find more. I have more joy in teaching than competing. Not that I don't like competing; I love competing, but I feel a lot more joyful seeing someone succeed other than myself. Right? It's definitely a selfless act of teaching someone the things that the things that made you better, right? Made you succeed. A lot of people sometimes want to teach moves and want to hide those moves for themselves or certain details, right? I have been seeing people teach things wrong to be able to, like other teachers, to be able to have it for themselves. And teaching, seeing people evolve is a priceless feeling, right? That somehow you had a powerful impact, a beneficial impact on someone's life. It's priceless, right? And I find this should be the ultimate goal. I mean, my ultimate goal is not to be a good competitor. My ultimate goal is to be a good teacher, a great teacher. And back in the day, when people learned jiu-jitsu, they didn't learn jiu-jitsu just to fight. They learned jiu-jitsu to teach.
Yeah.
And not only you have to, it's a whole different game. You don't have to, when you learn to be a good competitor, sometimes you're a horrible teacher, right? I've seen it many times. So it's something that you have to work on and adapt onto what your student needs. So it's a powerful feeling to teach someone. Yeah.
I think going back to Carlos and Helio, one of their other incredible contributions to jiu-jitsu was that they built good teachers, like you were saying. Like, of course, they built the great fighters, but they also imparted their ways onto future professors and taught them really how to interact with people, how to teach people. Is that another part of the legacy that you want to carry on from them, is not just create competitors and good martial artists, but also great teachers?
100%. It's a different accomplishment when you teach someone how to teach. It's a different thing, right? You have to do that from the start. you're not only teaching them moves, but you're teaching them how to teach those moves, how you taught them, and make them aware of that, right? Not only moves, but how to. Sometimes your student is very shy, and then you got to make work that on him to be more of I say extrovert, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have to each student you have to focus on them and see what they need in terms of jiu-jitsu moves and personality as well. And one thing that it goes into teaching that people don't some people even don't like it. I seen some comments about it that you should leave the preaching part out of it. I'm not preaching, right? Of course, but I'm saying jiu-jitsu it's not a just for moves, right? When you teach, you're teaching them how to be a better person. So I've seen that Carlos and Ali did that beautifully, where they were able to raise teachers, right? And those teachers happen to be fighters as well.
Awesome. So I know a lot of people are really excited to watch you make your black belt debut. You had such an amazing run at brown belt, showed incredible technique. So do you have any plans for when you're going to make your black belt debut?
To be honest with you, I have no plans at the moment for the dates and I mean in that terms, right? One thing that's guaranteed is that I'll be competing in the Worlds next year as a black belt. So I mean that's one thing that I can guarantee that I'll be there. Other than that, of course, I'm hoping to do my black belt debut a lot sooner than that, right? But no plans yet, nothing. Now I'm just enjoying time with family here in Brazil with this beautiful view, right? I'll turn the camera later before we end the podcast, but just here spending time with grandma, eating some good food, and just relax.
Awesome. Well, congrats on all your success. You've had such an amazing run. I think you're such a great representative of the art, not just with your technique, but also just with your personality and what you want to contribute beyond just the technical aspect of jiu-jitsu. So is there anything else you wanted to add before we end the podcast?
Well, thank you very much for your words. I mean, congratulations to you guys for doing an amazing job. IBJJF is always killing. And the people who are saying jiu-jitsu is dead, the gi is dead, it's a mere lie, it's a mere illusion, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be bigger than ever. I think that there's a lot of beauty in the gi, and it's a beautiful martial art, and the gi will never be dead, no matter what they say.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Rayron, for your time today. We really appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Let me show you the view. I gotta show you the view.
Yeah, let's see the view.
People at home. Let me see how I can turn this.
Wow, that's incredible.
Look at that. Doesn't get any better than that.
Amazing.
Right? That's why I'm staying here. No plans on coming back to New York.
Yeah. You don't get that view in New York.
You don't. Wait 1 second. Okay, here. Okay, brother.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you guys soon for another episode. Take care.
See you.